Hey guys, so I expect it's common knowledge to more than a few of you that the 16.10 version of Lubuntu, the LXDE variant of the Ubuntu family of distributions, are going to be changing their desktop environment from LXDE to LXQt. Now, I'm reasonably familiar with both of these desktop environments, but I'm certainly more familiar with LXDE, in no small part to the fact that I've used Lubuntu as my daily driver before, and it's a distribution that I really quite like, and it's my go-to distribution for when I want to rescue old machines. And I've got machines that are 15 plus years old running on Lubuntu. So it's a distribution that I hold in very high regard, because it does support, like the Ubuntu-based distributions are known for being able to boot and are supported on the widest variety of hardware, at least in my personal experience. And having a lightweight version of that that works out of the box in so many ways is pretty fantastic. So I was quite interested to find out what the ramifications of this might be. It could be nothing, it could be something. But it prompted me to list all of the applications that I regularly use and to list whether or not they're Qt or GTK. And I'm just going to read them out to you now. So my Qt list of applications are Scribus, my desktop publishing program, KeePassX, my password manager, Kdenlive, my video editor, and in my humble opinion, the best video editor available on Linux. Yak, which I don't use anymore. I uninstalled because it was a little bit unstable. It comes out of the AUR and is a desktop client for Google Hangouts and Google Chat, which it's pretty good when it works, but like I said, I uninstalled it because it broke. VLC Media Player, a pretty darn good media player on Linux, one that I certainly use quite a lot. OBS, Open Broadcaster Software, live streaming software that I use. Simple Screen Recorder, the best screen recording software are available on Linux, in my opinion, if you're just going for screen cap, partly because you can adjust the settings so that it uses significantly less CPU, so you can actually record some pretty high fidelity graphics with it. Krita, the pretty good Qt-based image editing program, and Inkscape. So all of these use the Qt applications, plus I think I've probably installed quite a few. That's quite an old list. And the GTK applications that I use regularly are GIMP, which I do quite enjoy, but Krita is it's probably better if we're honest. But I don't use image editing for anything fancy anyway, so what's simple and works for me. And then I've got Chromium and Firefox, both using the GTK toolkit, although as I understand it, Chromium and the Chrome browser will be switching to another toolkit, I think, or possibly might not even use the GTK toolkit, but they take from the GTK color palette or something to do with that. Anyway, I'm putting it under the GTK list, but it might not necessarily always be true, and it might not necessarily be true now. Firefox and Thunderbird. So as you can see, with Chromium, Firefox, and Thunderbird being under the GTK list, the applications that I tend to have always open are 3 of the 4 on the GTK list, which is quite interesting there. But the most advanced and complicated programs I have on any of these lists are probably Kdenlive and OBS, because they deal with video and audio, and both of them are Qt. Kdenlive sits particularly well even in the KDE environment, and I'm running KDE at the moment, and I've got to say I really do like KDE. To me, KDE looks like it could surpass Windows 10 in a heartbeat in the visual elements, in the user friendliness of it all, and I would like to see more desktop environments adopt it as they sort of de facto desktop environment, because it gives a good degree of consistency across Linux distributions, as well as a full-featured desktop. Of course, for me, the big drawback of KDE, or Plasma 5, I think as they're calling it now, of course, is the system resources, although I have heard a number of you folks in the comments saying that it's actually quite easy to slim down KDE if you take out quite a lot of the non-essential components. So there's also that. So I did actually try, as a result of actually making this list, using KDE as my default desktop environment, and I got to say, I really did do like it. And I've always been drawn towards GTK-based desktop environments. Maybe that's because there are more of them. Maybe it's because the distribution that really got me into the swing of Linux was Ubuntu back in the GNOME 2 days. But my first Linux distribution was SUSE. I think that was about 1997 or something, real long ago, and that had KDE as its default desktop environment, and I liked it then, and I've always liked KDE But for some reason, I've always gone to GTK, where my opinion of all the GTK desktop environments has gone up and down like yo-yos all the time, whereas KDE, it seems to be reasonably consistently in favor of. But LXDE, or Lubuntu rather, are going to be moving to LXDE rather than KDE. So it's not going to... LXQt is not going to have all the benefits of being a KDE based distribution, because KDE is going to have so many more components and libraries and stuff already bundled in by default, which I'm going to imagine that LXQt is going to be significantly more slimmed down, which minimizes the differences between LXDE and LXQt. They could very well be moving to LXQt for the sole reason that LXQt seems to have more of a buzz about it right now. It seems to have more people, more distributions sort of adopting it in their community distributions, and it just seems to be more active at the moment. So it might just be a pragmatic, a case of pragmatism, that they want the most well-maintained desktop environment out of that still fits within their mission statement or their mission objectives. So I gotta say, it's going to be brought in the 16.10 version of Lubuntu, so in true form they're not going to be making drastic changes for the long-term support release, seemingly unlike the Ubuntu team, but there you go. They like to mix it up there at Canonical. I've got to say, I would like to see more Qt-based desktop environments. The difference between Qt and GTK is one that, I'm going to be honest, it goes over my head quite a lot, because a lot of the discussion about it is to do with developers. But and I know there's going to be opinions from both sides on this, and I'd be happy for you to sort of express your preference for one over the other down in the description below. But as I've understood it, from a professional / enterprise standpoint, Qt seems to be the go-to one. If you look at VirtualBox, that's also in Qt as well. And Steam, I think, uses possibly something to do with Qt as well. If I remember correctly, there might be something in their dependencies, or they could very well actually be using their own toolkit. But a lot of stuff seems to be going Qt in the way that a lot of stuff seemed to be going GTK, you know, sort of 7 or 8 years ago. So that's quite interesting. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. But I gotta say, I have tried out LXQt, I've tried out LXDE. I gotta say, LXQt definitely has more promise. It definitely seems like it goes a little bit further in terms of user interface customizability and your options available to you. But they, I wouldn't switch out one for another on if one were to come as a default desktop environment. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on the subject. What do you guys think? Let me know. And until next time, I've been Chris Ware, and you've been awesome. Take care now.